Welcome to Out of Court and Out of Conflict, your guide to estate law and probate solutions. Presented by Wasinger Law Office. Join us as we unravel legal complexities and secure your family's legacy.
Hey there, and welcome to Out of Court and Out of Conflict, your guide to estate law and probate solutions by Wasinger Law Office. Join us today as we unravel legal complexities and secure your family's legacy with experienced attorney Matt Wassinger. Matt, great to see you again.
You too, Kevin.
So why is it important for you, the estate planning attorney, to have a real deep understanding of a family's dynamics and intricacies when it comes to creating and maintaining someone's estate plan?
Well, that's interesting because one of the biggest reasons that we set up the way we handle estate planning is because we felt that most attorneys weren't taking in enough of that information to fully draft an estate plan that worked for them, for their clients. We have homework that we make everyone do before they come in, before their first meeting. And part of the homework not only lists their just general personal information, their assets, their liabilities, the stuff that they owe, the stuff that they have, and their family members. It also asks them goals and potential problems that they may be going through or things like that, because that's the most important thing. Any attorney that's sitting there telling somebody, oh, you have to have this much money to set up a trust, or you only have this much money, you can't set up a trust, or you shouldn't set up a trust. If they're not taking that information with what their client's goals are, then they're missing the whole point. Knowing what a family's dynamic is matters on how you are handling the estate plan, because the whole point, or out of court, out of conflict, the first thing that happens is conflict. That's what happens with families when money comes into play and they're trying to figure out a way to put everything to where it's supposed to go. So if you have a couple that comes in and maybe their marriage is not in a fantastic place and they do not necessarily like the other people involved on the other side of the family. So they don't like their brother-in-law, they don't like their sister-in-law, they don't like their mother, whoever they're dealing with. Sometimes it makes more sense in those situations to set up separate revocable trusts for each one of them, just because they can then determine where their assets are going and who's handling what, and they don't have to make those decisions necessarily completely together. They can kind of break that up. And the same thing we do with blended families, meaning families that have kids from other past relationships. So everyone can be one big happy Brady Bunch family while everyone's alive and all living together, but once one of those people pass, then you've got a family dynamic that has changed. Maybe a new spouse comes in the picture that doesn't like any of the kids on the other side. They don't like what's going on. So we set up separate trusts in that way to make sure when the first person passes, everyone gets a little bit of a cut, or at least we recommend that. So that way everyone's gotten something before the whole world changes necessarily for them when a new spouse comes in, or their step parent just doesn't have the same relationship with them that they had with their parents. So knowing the family dynamic, also who we may want to avoid putting in a position as successor trustee or executor of an estate, going through those things makes a huge difference on whether the estate plan you draft actually helps that family stay out of court and conflict, or just leads them directly into court and conflict because they've not thought through the people that they're putting in the positions that they need them in, or how they're setting up their trusts and their beneficiaries to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Let me get this straight. You're saying that families tend to be dramatic? Is that what you're saying?
Just occasionally.
You heard it here first, folks.
Just when money's involved.
Yeah, that is for sure. Well, you have said that you want to be there to grow with a family. What does that mean to you? And why is that important to a family's estate plan?
Well, because one, the more that you know them, the better that you can advise them on what's best for their family when they're asking questions about how they should handle their estate plan. So that's, part of it. The other part is estate planning isn't something you just set and forget. The law, if nothing else changes, your family and all of your goals and all of your assets stay exactly the same your entire life, the law changes. So maybe there's some things that you're going to want to revisit to adapt or amend or change your estate plan to avoid these new changes in the law, or take advantage of the new changes in the law that would help your family. So that's the other part. And then the final part is we are a family office. My wife and I are the only attorneys in the firm. We want to make sure that people feel like they're being treated as, their family's being treated like they're part of the family. We want to make sure that it's an easy phone call for them throughout their life and not just worrying about whether a bill's coming if they call us, or having just such a transactional relationship that they're not looking for ARDs. When it comes to these things, they're just trying to figure it out on their own. And that's where we want to be there for them to ensure that what we've given them is not just an expensive paperweight, right? We wanted to make sure that it works when it's supposed to work. And part of that is keeping in touch and making sure that we know the family dynamics that they have and their assets and the law and everything else is moving in the direction they need it to.
So you start with a family planning session, right? Is that kind of how things start? So tell me, what is that all about? How does that work?
So we set up our planning to maximize the time that we have. We book 2 hours out for every family planning session. And those family planning sessions don't always last 2 hours, but we want to make sure that all the questions are answered, and whatever estate plan that they choose to move forward with, we can design it all right there and answer as many questions as possible. But we book that session about 10 days to 2 weeks out. And once it's booked is when they get their homework. They get a link to complete their homework online. And that's where they're asked, their basic family information, contact information, their assets, liabilities, and most importantly, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish with their estate plan. We won't hold that planning session without that homework being done and back to us a couple days ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And the reason is if you came in and even if we had that homework, but you just bring it in to us, we're going through it while you're in there and then giving you answers as we go, or we're giving you just hypotheticals because you haven't done the homework. And the hypothetical doesn't get us anywhere. We're still backtracking to figure out what's going on. So we want
kind of a waste of time.
Right. So we're focusing on educating you on what your options are, and almost for you, it's kind of described as a pick your own plan type of situation. I'll give you recommendations based on what you've told us and what we know. But ultimately, you got to decide what's best for your family, that intersection between what you guys want to accomplish and what seems to be the best plan for you. As long as we're educating you in that session to make sure that you have all the information and get to choose, that's what a real estate planning attorney should be doing, focusing on what your goals are and what makes the most sense for your family, not necessarily how many assets they have or don't have.
I have another analogy for you. You could say choose your own adventure book.
Yeah, there we
Remember
go.
those when you were a kid?
The Adventure of Dying. Choose your own adventure of dying.
I guess it is a little bleak. Maybe we'll workshop it. So what different aspects do you look at with the family during these sessions?
Kind of some of what we've already talked about, which is, what's the current family situation? How young are the kids? Do we need to focus on guardians and our kids' protection plan? Do we need to focus on figuring out how you can choose your guardians and your trustee to take care of the assets you leave behind for your kids, especially if they're minors? If they're in college age, do they have any of their estate planning stuff done? And it doesn't have to be very drastic because most 18 to 23-year-olds don't have a ton. But once they're 18, their parents can't handle their finances for them anymore without a court order. They can't handle or get their medical information without a court order necessarily, or a medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney. So we're paying attention to that. We like to find out what's going on with the husband and wife. If it's a couple specifically, is everyone on good terms right now? Are we, and lucky for us, most of our clients are very transparent. They come in and say, hey, we're great. We've got everything on the same page. This makes sense for us. Some are, fighting from the get-go, and they'll be straight up about it. That they are not.
Like they actually fight during this planning session?
Yeah, they'll just be, they've got different ideas of how they want to go, or maybe they're not in a great place, and it's that's part of the deal. So we have to take that information and go from there. And also, then it's the rest of the family dynamic. Do they have a big family? Do we have parents or siblings or aunts and uncles that we are trying to keep out of? Do we need to make specific provisions so they are not involved in this if it comes down to it? All of that has to come into play. And, it's really a case-by-case basis, because you can have people that have been married 40 years and their kids are all adults and great, but they'll still say this child being they're 50 years old and they still don't know how to manage their money. And we want to set up, so there's different options to set up, leave those assets for them if they so choose, to make sure that it's, kind of parceled out in a way that they don't waste everything that's given to them.
In what situations would someone need to make changes or to update their estate planning documents? Like, what kind of life changes would facilitate or would require that?
Well, in some cases, almost all cases, if kids make a huge difference, right? So where the kids are at. So if you have another child or you have children for the first time, adding them in. Marriages, divorces, obviously big estate planning changes. And then if you have some sort of big asset swing, that's when you're going to want to sit down and discuss maybe amending certain things, whether that's you set up this very intricate estate plan because you had a very high net worth and you wanted to make sure you were avoiding taxes and all sorts of things, but maybe something's happened, the economy got bad, something happened, you need to change it that way. Or vice versa, you get a big windfall and now all of a sudden you've got all this money coming in or came in and you need to find a way to make sure that it's not just out there for anyone to take and you're not bidding up against that estate tax, which can be 40% off the top of the money that you've already,
Whoa, 40%.
Yeah. And all the assets you've already paid taxes on at some point.
Oh, wonderful. You're convincing me. I need a living will and I need to get my things in order. So how can we address concerns about family conflicts that might arise during the estate settlement process? How can we prepare for that?
Well, I mean, the number one thing is having your estate plan set up and talking with your attorney about the people that you have chosen and the spots that you have them chosen, right? A successor trustee, you don't necessarily want to name a successor trustee that's different from your financial power of attorney. I mean, you can, but it's probably not a great idea because their jobs can overlap. And if they do, there's where the conflict comes back in, right? So we're avoiding those types of things. Sometimes people have guardians that they know that they want to raise their minor children and would raise them the way they want to, but they don't necessarily want them handling all of the money because while they're great at raising kids, maybe they're not great at handling money. So they want that money. So at that point, we should separate it and have a different person handling the money over the people that are raising the children. So, the best way to address it is make sure that you've got backups to your backups and you've got if this, then that baked into as many different aspects of your estate plan as you possibly can. So you're preparing for as many, left turns here and there that could happen and making sure that it's covered no matter what, and you're not heading to court to figure out what the next move is.
Do you find that you meet with families often to go over changes, whether that's needs or family dynamics? Is that a common thing, or do people, once they've got their situation settled, are they pretty locked in?
What our firm does is for every estate plan, every 3 years, we do a free review, just going over what their assets, have their assets changed? Has their family changed? Have their goals changed? And, of course, we always have to worry about, has the law changed? And sometimes we're just meeting over Zoom and saying, hey, what's going on? Is there anything different? And sometimes there's nothing. We're not doing anything different. And we just say, okay, well, let's, check in, calls if you need us. And then other times we're amending absolutely everything because they've had major life changes or just major goal changes and they want to change the way that they've set everything up. So we try to stay in consistent contact for that reason. And then obviously, I should say obviously, but generally, I feel we do a pretty good job of letting our clients know, hey, if something happens or you're not sure, call us and we'll tell you what may or may not need to happen. Don't wait for us to contact you in 3 years if you have a major life event in a year from now. Or there's something you're worried about. Let's address it. Maybe we don't have to do anything. Maybe we should do something, or maybe you don't want to. That's fine. But let's at least make sure that you know the options before just kind of continuing on. Again, we don't want you just carrying around that expensive paperweight. We want it to actually work.
So we touched on this a little bit in the last episode, I think, but I'm going to ask a loaded question here. So what are the potential implications of not having an updated estate plan? I'm asking for a friend, not for me.
It is 100% ending up in court and conflict and probate. Yeah. That is the biggest issue that you're going to have. If you think you've got an estate plan set up and everything is in there, you may want to double check. And that's part of the following up is we actually set up our estate planning. So we have 3 meetings. A lot of estate planning attorneys only have 2. the initial meeting, that planning session, and then a signing meeting where you sign everything. And then almost all attorneys will give their clients, let's use a trust example, specific instructions on how to fund the trust. That's putting your assets so they go into your red wagon, right? Using that to do that. But they'll give them that, and then they'll just send them on their way. And what happens 9 times out of 10, if someone comes to us with a trust done by a different attorney, the trust might be set up just fine, but there's nothing in it. So they haven't done any of the steps they need to for it to go in there. You're heading to probate. So that's why we had a third meeting. At that signing meeting, we give you the instructions, and we give you, unlimited phone calls, emails, guidance from us to get your assets put in that trust. But we give you only what you need to do that at that second meeting. And then we bring you back for a third meeting, which we won't have until all your assets are transferred. So that's when you get the binder and your flash drive and your family legacy interview and all that other stuff, because we want that to actually work. So the biggest problem is if you do not have an updated or have reviewed your estate plan in a lot of years, that's going to end up either with somebody getting something that you didn't want to happen, but you just never got around to updating it, or it's not going to where it's supposed to go, and you're going to end up in court and probate, which you spent all that money whenever you did it to avoid.
Now, my wife's a realtor, and she's seen some probate situations with selling a house. And yeah, so she's been all about it. Like, we got to get our stuff in order, because like she sees kind of some of the bad side of things. So what does a long-term partnership between a family and your firm look like? So take me through this. A family comes to you, how does the relationship play out between your firm and that family?
Well, like I said, the first step is that family planning session. And that's where we're getting really to know each other. Because the first part of that is us telling you what happens with whatever planning you have or don't have with your assets, with your kids, with whomever, and giving you and just educating you on the process, educating you on probate, educating you on estate planning, educating you on some of those pitfalls. And then at that, midway through that, you're making a decision, we're both making a decision of whether it's a good fit or not, and if you want to move forward. At that point, you move forward, we're designing that plan for you. And then we'll after we get that all squared away, within about 30 days, we're bringing you back for signing everything, and then giving you everything that you need to go transfer your assets or title your assets in a way that makes sense for your estate plan, whether that's a will or a trust plan. And then our follow-up is that third meeting where we've got everything in there, make sure that you're good to go, you understand the process, because most people are titling the assets themselves. And so they now can figure out the next account they open up or things they can just put it in there the way they need to make sure it funnels into their trust. And then at that meeting, we also have the option of a family legacy interview, where you can leave a video for your spouse, your kids, your family, your friends, whomever you want, that we also will save and put on a flash drive for you with the rest of your digital documents. And then from there, it's, hey, we'll be following up in 3 years. We'll be reaching out, but give us a call in between there if you have anything, you need anything. And then we're also bombarding them once a week with a weekly newsletter that I'm sure that not everyone loves, but that's
hey, they can unsubscribe.
Yeah, they do. They can. That's part of what we're doing, trying to keep in touch and make sure that they know that we're here when they need us.
Again, like I said before, it's one of those things like, let the experts handle it. You guys know what you're doing. I feel the same way. I don't do my own taxes. I'm just like, you know what? I'll pay someone who knows what they're doing to do this, because I don't want to mess it up. And I know I will.
Right. And, in our case, you'll just end up in probate. You do your taxes wrong, you could end up in jail. Right.
That is true. The stakes are a little higher, but I guess it depends on who you are. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Out of Court and Out of Conflict with experienced attorney Matt Wassinger. For more information or to connect with Matt, you can always visit wasingerlawoffice.com or find him on social media. As always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments. We very much appreciate it. Matt, great to see you again.
You too, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos like this one. And be sure to follow us on social media.